Are we? We're live, right? Hmm? I don't know. Something says we're live. We'll just. There we go. We are. We are totally live right now. All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Apocalypse Humpday. Um, we are starting into the zombie apocalypse. This will be part one, and this is kind of so. A while ago, a long while ago, I was still married when I wrote this book, but I wrote a zombie apocalypse novel called Zechariah 14:12, Humanity's Last Stand. And oddly enough, I don't have a copy of it here to show you guys. Hey, what's up, man? Good to see you. Yeah, I don't have a copy of the book to show you guys, but if you go on my Amazon page, you'll see it on there. It's Zechariah 14:12, Humanity's Last Stand. And I need to stop giving my books away so that I have copies for myself. Anyway, so this is a road to that. Tonight we are going to be reading from my book, Sleepwalker, which came out last year. And it is going to have, it's got the story Homecoming in it, which is how this whole thing began. And we're going to start out on the International Space Station Mark IV. To go with tonight's reading, I added some sound effects. We've got some background music of what it sounds like on a space station, at least according to the people that created this. So there's that. Anyhow, yeah, we're going to be covering the zombie apocalypse. We're going to read, eventually get to the novel, and then we'll do a chapter every Apocalypse Hump Day. And then, yeah, and then we're going to keep going from there. So, anyways, tonight we're going to be reading from Sleepwalker in a story called, I'm still in Tunes for Tuesday, in a story called Homecoming. So, I appreciate everybody coming out. We do this every Wednesday. I'll read a short story from one of my books, and regarding the apocalypse. We're on night 4 now of doing this. I've been doing a lot of online reading from my books for the past month, and viewership is growing, which is really freaking cool. So I really appreciate you guys coming out. Yeah, so without further ado, let's jump on the USV Alcubierre, which is the world's first faster than light starship. Now to explain where we're at in the book, the book is about a guy that he goes hunting with his buddy, and they're in these mysterious woods. He falls through what they call a thin spot and ends up in a different reality every time he wakes up. And he's got to go through this reality and figure out how to get to the next reality, trying to get to his home. So, in this story, he wakes up and he is an astronaut aboard the USV Alcubierre, which is the world's first faster than light starship. So that's where we are, and let's get started. Does it sound like we're on a spaceship with the sounds? Can you hear the sounds? All right, here we go. Homecoming. Wakey, wakey, Lieutenant Broadmeadow, Sergeant Jeff Eastman said. Time to celebrate. Bo inhaled deeply, almost in a gasp, and started to hyperventilate. Easy now, buddy. You've been in cryo sleep. How many fingers am I holding up? His lungs hurt as they began to breathe the artificial oxygen. Everything was blurry when he opened his eyes. He could only make out a dimly lit cabin. A person was crouched near him, holding up a blurry hand. Did we get him? Bo said through a dry throat. Did we get who? his friend asked. The Your brain's gonna be a little wonky for a bit. You've been asleep for about a year. A year? What? Where am? You're aboard the USV Alcubierre. Do you remember that? His vision was clearing, and his friend finally came into focus. He could see he was in a tube or a cryopod. There were two others waking up in the cramped cabin next to him. The Alcubierre? There we go. Do you recognize those two girls over there? He squinted at the female shapes across from him. When they came into focus, his body began to warm up, and a slight smile lit on his face. Eva? He croaked. Shelley? Hi, are you good? Dr. Eva James asked him. She was his partner outside the space program. They had been dating 8 months before the mission. Jeff, Dr. Shelley Eastman, Jeff's wife, give him some water for Christ's sakes. Oh, shit, Jeff said, pulling a bag of water from the compartment in the ceiling and handing it to him. Sorry, buddy. What's going on? Bo said, feeling the relief of water going down his dusty throat. We made it. The experiment worked. The FTL engine performed within specs and got us from one side of the solar system to the other within a year's time. That's wonderful. Eva floated over to him and gave him a kiss on the lips. Ew, she smiled. Morning breath. You guys freshen up, Jeff said. I'll head up to the cockpit and see how things are going with our captains. At the helm sat Captain Stephen Barker and his co-captain, Clive King. Out of the front window, Jeff could see the Earth in all her beauty. Between them and the Earth was the International Space Station Mark IV. She's beautiful, ain't she? He commented to the pilots. She is, Barker said, but she's not responding. What do you mean? We've put out a call to Houston and Cape Canaveral, and we've received nothing but white noise. AEB, aquí la nave espacial Unida Alcubierre. Entramos en el vector 1097. Copias cambio? King called out to the Brazilian Space Agency. Nothing. That's it, King said, flabbergasted. I've tried to contact CNSA in China, the Russians, ISRO in India, JAXA, and the UK. Nada. No welcome home party, no nothing. And the ISS isn't answering their phone either? Jeff said. No one's home, Captain Barker said. Just the beacons are on. No interior lights. What's up? Bo asked from behind Jeff. I think we better buckle in, Jeff tells his friends. Think we're planning on docking on the ISS. The impulse engines shut down and the thrusters began to maneuver their ship in a 180-degree angle. Prepare for docking, Barker called out. The thrusters gave out one last hiss, and there was a metallic clang as the spacecraft rested on the embarkment pads. There was a hum as the magnetic clamps hooked onto the airlock, and another hiss as the compartment sealed. Connecting to the onboard systems now, King said. Run a diagnostic as soon as you get connected, Barker ordered. Are we going to check it out? Jeff asked, unbuckling his seatbelts. Give us a few. I know we've been gone for over a year, but there's something that leaves me uneasy about all this silence. I'm in, King states. All life support systems are operational, but they're shut down. Comms are also down. Did they at least activate the distress beacon? Barker asked. No, sir. I've been trying to pull the commander's log, but I'm coming up short. Looks like we're going to have to pay a visit in person. Barker looks back at the crew. Dr. Eastman, I'd like you to go with King on recon. There may be injured persons on board. Yes, sir, Shelley said. But if the life support has been off, I don't think there'll be anyone left alive on board. I'm aware of that, Doctor. But just in case, I'd like you to be there. King, keep your camera recording, and I want constant radio contact. Is that understood? Yes, sir. King and Kelly suited up. Jeff came by to kiss his wife. The heavy airlock door buzzed for a few seconds, and then the locks popped and hissed. Single file, they floated into the space station's airlock, and the doors were closed again and locked. This is Co-Captain Clive King with Dr. Michelle Eastman from the USV Alcubierre, entering the airlock of the International Space Station Mark IV. There have been no communication or signs of its crew, and we are investigating. Barker, are you getting this? Loud and clear, King. Barker has the large monitor on so the rest of the crew can observe the cockpit. The picture is grainy and dark. The only light is from the light on his and Shelley's helmet. We're stepping from the airlock into the main corridor. All lights are out, and it is silent. King, the command module is to your right. You should be able to get all systems up and running from there. Copy that, Captain. Clive and Shelley float into the command module. Inside there are 4 chairs, 2 on each side, sitting in front of control panels. A few dimly lit buttons are blinking. Monitors project the ISS logo. Lighting up sections 1 through 4. King is flicking switches, and in the background you can see that it is getting brighter. Now 5 through 8. Even from the windows in the cockpit of the spaceship, the crew could see the inside lights turn on in the space station. 9 through 12 are on, switching on life support to all corridors. Oxygen rushed through the ventilation shafts of the many corridors. Sir, you should be able to link to the commander's logbook now. Patching it in now, Barker said. I'm showing one of the escape pods have launched. How many crew members are supposed to be on board? According to the roster, 11. They should have a complement from each agency out there, even some civilians from SpaceX. Then where is the rest of the crew? Commander King? Shelley asked. Yeah? You have blood on your suit. What? It's beaded up along your shoulder blade. Captain, can you see it? Barker and the rest of the crew could see a dark red splatter of blood on Commander King's back. King and Shelley slide the visors closed on their helmets. Affirmative. The crew watched as King made his way slowly out of the command module and out into the main corridor. What looked like blood was floating in semi-coagulated globules throughout the craft. Captain, are you getting this? Captain King asked. We can see it. Why don't you two head back to the ship? We can go over the ship's logs in here. Shelley and Clive made their way to the airlock. Clive began to punch in the lock code to begin clearing the room. Commander King? Shelley asked, touching his arm. Are you hearing that? There was an audible knocking sound coming from what sounded like the medical lab. I hear it, King said. Can you guys hear that? It's like a knocking noise on metal. Barker turned up the volume on his monitor. I can't make it out, Barker said. Where's it coming from? Not sure. Sounds like it's coming from the direction of the medical lab. I'll check it out. Be cautious. Overhead lights flicker above them as they slowly move about the gore-stained corridor, being careful not to touch the dark globules floating around them. The knocking's getting louder, King states. We're coming around the corner now from the main common room. The motion lights flicker on as they make it to the outside of the med lab module. No one can make out what's in the lab, as the glass in the viewport is smeared with what looks like blood and hair. The knocking has stopped, Shelley said. Clive, Captain Barker speaks up into their personal intercoms. Why don't you and Dr. Eastman head back to the ship? We'll go over the logs and plan a strategy from there. Fine by me, Shelley says enthusiastically. Make sure you two decon the suits when you come back through the airlock. Copy that, King said. International Space Station, log entry 2213, November 3. Commander Lindsay Gantz. Dr. Donovan Brevik and cosmonaut Adam Tolchev have successfully gathered samples from asteroid labeled 3742-B. Samples were brought to the ISS via the Asimov Retriever Module. Samples were encapsulated and quarantined in the science lab's isolation cabinet until deemed safe for study. Briefed shortly with crew regarding the return of the USV Alcubierre faster-than-light spacecraft. All preparations have been made for their arrival in the next few weeks. SpaceX civilian explorers seem to be adjusting well to life in space, outside of the typical claustrophobic reactions to close quarters. Science experiment A21 from the University of Minnesota have been put on hold until we've made preliminary studies of our recent findings on 3742-B. JAXA astronaut Xing has been working on the directional particle spectrometer. Work should be done by the end of the week. International Space Station log entry 2213 November 5. Commander Lindsay Gantz. The specimens from 3742-B have cleared quarantine, and Dr. Brevik, Dr. Santiago, and Dr. Rasmussen will be leading the study. Preliminary data: 2 parts unknown calcium crystal, 2 parts carbon matter, 3 parts magnesium, 11 parts nickel, 9 parts cobalt. A spectral analysis of certain rock parts reveals that there is a liquid of some sort in the center of the specimen. Unknown composition for now. Diamond cutter is being used for other work and will need to be deconned and quarantined for 24 hours. Photographs for National Geographic were taken of Earth and sent. Cosmonauts Kolchev and Krzempa have briefed their government via video. Plant experiment for University of Texas Botanical Department has failed. Conclusions will be sent out by the end of the week. International Space Station log entry 2213 November 6. Commander Lindsay Gantz. The crust of specimen 3742-B has been removed. Drilled through mantle of specimen, 3.6 centimeters into the mantle, specimen revealed a thick black gelatinous material. Contained material in glass observation jar. Dr. Brevik took a sample from substance, 1.32 cc's, and observed in an electron microscope. Data reveals substance is living tissue. If these findings are proven correct, this will be the first time mankind has discovered life outside of Earth. See Brevik video log. That's it? King said. That's the end of the log? It appears so, Barker said. Let's see Brevik's video log. Can we pull that up? Dr. Donovan Brevik, University of Alaska graduate with a PhD from USC's biology department, was a man of 36. Tall, short, strawberry blonde hair with brown, sad eyes, horn-rimmed glasses that sat on the bridge of his nose as if they wanted to jump off. As the video begins, it is a close-up view of what Brevik is seeing through his microscope. There are moving organisms within a dark, oily mass. As you can see, Donovan narrates, the test specimen I've withdrawn from the asteroid does have the components of what looks to be life. The organisms within have yet to be tested, but initially, this black substance is either a biosphere for microscopic life, or it's a multi-celled organism. The video cuts to a shot of him floating next to the microscope. His face is happy and proud. We could be looking at our very first E.T., he continues. Just some microbial life is exciting enough to find on a sample from an asteroid. Normally things like this are found on extraterrestrial oceans such as Europa. I'm hoping to find this to be a multi-celled organism, a first for Earth explorers. Can you imagine? The first faster-than-light flight, and now this news. Dr. Brevik removes the sample from the electron microscope and pulls his hand back. Damn it, he says, holding up his finger. The glove he was using is torn from the glass slide, and a few droplets of blood float out from his finger. The video shuts off. What do you guys think? Captain Barker asks. That's the end of the logs? Dr. Shelley asks. Well, computer is still digging around in the archives. I want to look at the last 2 active posts to get a clear idea as to what happened around here. Do you think there was a contagion in that asteroid sample? Well, you're the scientist. You tell me, Doc. I can't really speculate until I've looked at all the data. Surely the team wrote notes on what they found after this. Well, let's look at what we've got. No radio contact with this station or the entire worldwide space program. We have a station with 1 missing escape pod, and we're not able to find any crew so far. We also don't know what's making that tapping sound in the medical lab, King says. And we have that, Barker grimaced. Eastman, Broadmeadow? Yes, sir, they both said in unison. I need you both to check out the rest of the station. I want you fully armed. I don't know what you're going to find, but we're going to treat this as an outbreak until we get some more facts. Fire only if provoked. Look for any notes or clues you can find and bring them back here. Sir? Bo asked. What is it? What if we find the crew? The chances that the crew is alive are very slim, despite the knocking King heard earlier. I want you to keep your visors sealed and avoid any foreign material that's floating around in there. Is that understood? Yes, sir. And decon yourselves and anything you bring back from there. As Jeff and Bo suited up, Shelley and Eva met them in the airlock. They both looked worried. It's gonna be okay, Bo said. You don't know that, Eva said. I've got a really bad feeling about this, Shelley added. That knocking kind of sealed the deal for me. Nothing should be alive on this station, not after the life support system was off for who knows how long. Maybe some of them kept alive via spacesuit, Jeff said. Then why didn't they just keep the life support on? Who took off in the escape pod? Look, Bo and I were assigned on here for security reasons. This is our job. We're armed and we got each other's backs. It's gonna be okay. I hate this. Shelley leaned over and kissed her husband. You ready to go, amigo? Bo asked Jeff. Jeff flipped his right thumb up. They entered the airlock and switched on their cameras and their comm systems. Breaker, y'all got your ears on? Bo says into his mic. Read you loud and clear, Lieutenant, Barker calls back. The compressor in the airlock hums and hisses as cabin pressure is readjusted. After a minute, the noises stop and the hatch to the station pops out. Jesus on a crutch! Bo gasped at the strings and shimmering puddles of blood floating in 0G. Sorry, I just wasn't ready for that so quick. Everything all right now? King asked. Yep, we're good. Heading over to the escape pod module. Need to confirm that only one was jettisoned. Bo opens the hatch and floats in. The escape pods are the shape of a coffin. Metal coffins with 2 powerful jets to break the planet's gravitational pull, and 2 small hydrogen thrusters to steer. They are lined around the module, and one is missing. Definitely one gone, Bo reports. I'm checking the access log now. Usually need to log in to unlock these things. Jeff stands vigil outside the module. Sergeant Eastman, Barker said. Any noise coming out of the medical lab? None that I can hear, sir, Jeff says. Was planning on heading over there after we check this out. Roger that. Captain, Bo interrupts. It looks like it may have been one or both SpaceX civilians that took the escape pod. It's a generic login. Do you think 2 could fit into an escape pod? It's not likely, but it's possible. I'm only thinking they both went since they're both civvies. They head down the corridor to the Commons module. There are 5 tubes exiting this module. To the left is the tube to the med lab sickbay. To the right is crew quarters. Ahead is the kitchen cafeteria, and the tube below them goes to an all-glass observation deck called the cupola. They hang to the left and approach the med lab hatch. "Jeff," Bo says, "you got me?" Jeff gives his trademark thumbs up and readies his rifle. "We're entering the med lab now," Bo says. Everyone holds their breath, both watching on the monitor and in person. As the hatch opens, the semi-skeletal remains of one of the ISS crew floats out towards them. Most of its body is the black substance stretched tightly around the skull and rib cage. Most of its spacesuit is gone from the torso, and only small rags hang on its legs. It looks to be reaching out to touch Bo, and Jeff takes the shot. Immediately, the skull explodes, and the chunks begin to float towards them. The body is blown back from centrifugal force. "Jesus!" Bo shouts. Jeff keeps his rifle trained on the body. Bo goes into the room, keeping his eyes on the floating corpse. "I've found a notebook," Bo says. "Grab it and bring it back with you," Barker orders. "Bo," Jeff says, "back out of there now." "What's up?" Bo asks. "Look at that black stuff on him. It seems to be moving." The obsidian substance does seem to be slithering off the body, as if it is reaching for Bo. He backs out into the corridor and shuts the hatch and seals it. "I'm guessing our culprit is whatever they brought back off that asteroid 3432-B, Barker says. "I'm guessing the entire sample is in the lab," Bo says. "Read what's in that notebook. Maybe we will shed the light on what happened here." "After what happened with Brevik and Min, I have isolated the sample in here with me. From what I can conclude, the organism is a virus of some sort. Once it enters the body, it houses itself to area 4 of the frontal lobe of the brain, or the primary motor cortex. The organism controls the body with the sole purpose of gathering food, which seems to be living tissue. As shown with patient Brevik, when a lab rat was introduced to it, it must be living tissue fed to the host, or it will begin to eat the living tissue from its host. Because of the danger to the rest of the crew, we have unanimously decided to jettison their bodies from the airlock." Dr. Edgar Whittaker. Partial entry. "I have quarantined myself in the lab. The survivors, not sure how many are left, are scattered about the station. SpaceX astronaut Benjamin Cortez was infected and subsequently terminated. His wife jettisoned herself from the station in one of the escape pods. I myself can feel the organism moving through my body, and I know that I will not be in control for much longer. Commander Gantz has locked down all escape pods. After communicating with Earth, we've decided to quarantine the entire station to stop any chance of infection. My hope is that astronaut Marta Cortez was not infected, or that she made touchdown on Earth. We have tried to contact the USV Alcubierre, but our signal is not strong enough. This will be my final entry, I think, because I cannot leave this module to obtain living tissue for the passenger that lives within my brain. I'm quite sure it will begin to... Entry stopped. What the hell did we return to? Jeff said. Do we jettison the med lab module? Bo asked. Well, what if it ends up landing on Earth? I'm sure it would burn up in the atmosphere. Judging by the non-communication from Earth, Barker states, I'm going to take a wild guess that Cortez was infected. Who knows what's on the ground now? We may be touching down to a zombie apocalypse. The intercom was silent for a good 5 minutes, each person trying to absorb the reality of their situation. Unlock the med lab module, Lieutenant, and undock it, Barker says finally. We're going to need to sweep the station and make sure we get rid of all contamination on board. I fear if things are bad on Earth, we may be stuck up here for a long while. Roger that, Captain, Jeff said. Please be careful, you guys, Eva speaks up. No worries, Eva, Jeff answers. We got each other's sixes. We'll be back in time for supper, Bo comments. Just then, the knocking starts again. Shh, Jeff says. You hear that? What's going on, boys? Barker asks. Think we're hearing that knocking Shelley and Clive heard earlier. We can't hear it on the monitors. It's audible over. It's just audible over the fans. I think it's coming from the port to the cupola module. Be careful. Bo and Jeff float over to the hatch on the floor. There's a quiet knocking from the other side. Bo cranks the lock open on the hatch, while Jeff stands opposite of him with his rifle ready. I wouldn't fire your rifle at it, Sergeant, King says. The cupola module's almost entirely made of tempered glass. You break that and the entire ISS, including the Alcubierre, gonna implode on itself. Shit, Jeff says and positions his rifle as a bludgeon and then nods at Bo. The heavy hatch creaks open and another crew member from the ISS comes floating up from the observation module, hungrily growling at Jeff. Its skull is just skin pulled tight against it, black veins coursing underneath. It reaches out greedily towards Jeff, who hits it directly in the face. Cheekbones shatter and the eyeballs release from their sockets and float out in either direction. Still, it keeps reaching for Jeff, its skeletal fingers trying to rip at his spacesuit, and a bony fist punches at his visor. Bo grabs a large wrench from the tool caddy on the wall, trying with all his might to connect a deadly blow to the thing's head. It has Jeff pinned to the wall of the commons area. Get this fucking thing off of me, he shouts. Each of Bo's attempts at damaging the thing are fruitless, so he grabs the thing by its tattered rags and hurls it to the other side of the capsule. It somersaults over the table and hits the other wall, ejecting more of its damaged face into the zero gravity. It gurgles in pure, hungry rage at both of them, its jaw hanging by a few pieces of sinew, eyeless sockets trying to find them, while its black tongue writhes in the gaping wound of its mouth. The black fluid begins to flow out of the eye sockets in small droplets. Bo locks his left foot into a railing and grabs it, hurling it towards Jeff, who swings the butt of his rifle like a baseball bat. Its head explodes in a hideous rainbow of gray, black, yellow, and red. They back themselves into the crew quarters and seal the hatch. Jeff searches the module to make sure there aren't any surprises inside. Secured, he closes the other hatch and leads into the spare sleeping quarters/gym. Are you guys okay? Barker asks, concerned. Bo looks himself over and then floats over to Jeff, who is leaning against one of the bunks on the wall, which is basically a formed gel cushion with padded straps to keep the sleepers secured. Hey, buddy. Bo looks over Jeff. You doing okay? Yeah, he says a little out of breath. That thing did a number on your visor. There are little cracks like spider webs where the thing tried to punch its way into his helmet. Bo also notices a small tear in Jeff's spacesuit. Lieutenant, Barker asks, what's your assessment? Just a little worn out, Captain, Bo answers. Jeff's visor is a little cracked, but still sealed. He's got a small tear in his suit, but only seems to be the top layer of fabric. Sergeant Eastman, your camera's out. Can't read anything on the monitors. I've been able to patch into the cameras in the Commons module, and it looks like you both were able to subdue that thing. Good job. You got one problem, though, King says. I wouldn't risk walking through there to get back to the ship. That Commons area is a hot zone now. Can't see it, but whatever was in that astronaut's body could be floating around in there. Could possibly infect one of you. Especially Sergeant Eastman, with those cracks in his helmet. Well, then I guess we'll have to spacewalk it to you from the other side of the station, Bo says. And hopefully don't have to deal with any more of those things. Suddenly, the sound of scraping metal and a loud groan echo through the station. Everything shakes and some of the seals begin to hiss. Captain? Bo asks. I've got another problem now, Barker states. The med lab module just bounced against the station. According to diagnostics, it took out a couple of the arrays and damaged a few of the pressurized mating modules. Ah, shit, Bo says, looking at his friend. We got this, Jeff says with a distant smile. Bro, the condition of your suit puts you at risk. One of those mating modules pop and you get sucked out of your suit and turned to jelly. That's the risk we take. Nope. You stay in here. I'm going to look for another suit. Lieutenant Broadmeadow, Barker says. There's a huge risk. There's more infected out there. Perhaps the rest of the station could collapse. If we don't get Jeff in a different suit, he won't survive if there's a breach. Sorry, Shelley, I didn't mean to upset you, but... It's okay, Bo, she says sadly. Just do what you can, please. Bo walks out the other hatch with a wrench in a hand and reseals it. He jumps at the sight of the two other crew members floating about the spare quarters. Sergeant Broadmeadow, Barker shouts. Are you okay? Yep. I think two of the crew were the living tissue this thing feeds on. They're not like the other one. Judging by the bite marks on these guys, it looks like they were the food. Jesus. To be trapped in this contraption with things like that. There's a crunching noise that stops the hearts of everyone listening. A long, drawn-out creak and then nothing but the sound of the seals hissing. Bo, Barker said calmly on the intercom. We've seen movement on the closed circuit in engineering. It's hard to tell because the lenses on the cameras have blood on them, but it looks like two bodies coming your way. Damn it, Bo curses. I was able to find a helmet, but not a suit. I may be able to patch that tear with some latex tape. Bo, get out of there, Eva shouts. There's more creaking noises and the entire station rattles. Bo makes it back to the sleeping quarters with Jeff. Que pasa, amigo? Bo greets. Found you a nice hat. Jeff grabs Bo by the arms and looks gravely into Bo's visor. Listen to me, Jeff says. Forget about the helmet and the suit. You're going to need to get into one of those escape pods. What are you talking about? Put the helmet on and we'll spacewalk out of here. There's no way out, buddy. We've got these things looking to eat us, like a couple of Big Macs from McDonald's. There's no time. I'm going to draw the attention of that blob in the common room while you get into an escape pod module. No, I'm not leaving you behind. We can both shut up for a minute. This is the only way. He's right, Broadmeadow, Barker says solemnly. You can't come through the airlock. The tanks are ruptured. We're going to have to pull the ship away from the station in a few minutes. The station is falling apart. A tear began to float from Bo's eyes. I'm sorry, Jeff. It's okay, brother, Jeff says. Let's get this shit done. As soon as the hatches opened, the black globule raced over and attached itself to Jeff's helmet. Jeff! Bo cried out. Get to the escape pods, Jeff muttered. Quick! Jeff floated over to the open hatch to the cupola module and pointed his rifle at the glass below him. The organism was trying its best to leak in through the crack of his visor. Bo got into the escape pod module and climbed inside one of the pods. Broadmeadow, Barker said, we're disembarking from the station. Once you've jettisoned, we'll try to maneuver over to you and pick you up. Escape pod 7A. Locked. Lock code 0613-2017. B. Meadow Bo. Escape pod 7A. Unlocked. Hurry up, buddy, says Jeff on the intercom. This thing is starting to get through my helmet. Escape pod 7A. On. Escape pod 7A. Life support on. O2 levels full. Escape pod 7A. Release in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The outside hatch blows off and the pod floats out of the station. I wish you didn't have to do this, man, Bo says to Jeff. Promise me one thing, Jeff says. Name it. Promise me if my sons are okay, you'll take them deer hunting and teach them. Teach them like I taught you. There's a loud bang and then a roar. Jeff screams, but it's cut short as the station begins to fold in on itself. Bo knows there's no time to mourn his friend. Shrapnel from the station is beginning to fly about, and if he doesn't maneuver, he's done all this for nothing. Broadmeadow status, Barker calls over. All systems go, Captain. We'll pull around and pick you up. Try not to get hit with... The radio goes silent. Bo steers his pod around to face the direction of the USV Alcubierre. A large section of the station is slammed into the dark matter generator. The hull had been breached, and he can see it begin to crumple. Captain! He screams. Eva! Shelley! The inertia of his descent is captured by Earth's gravity. His tears began to flow now instead of float. Escape pod 7A. Descent. Brake thrusters activated. Internal cooling systems activated. You can hear and feel the rumble of the brake thrusters as they kick on to slow his descent to Earth. Escape pod 7A. 11 kilometers. 10 kilometers. 9 kilometers. As the clouds race past his porthole, he begins to see the Earth, laid out before him like a live map. Sections of land divided into perfect shapes. Lakes and other bodies of water sit like mirrors. Escape pod 7A. Brake thrusters slowing. 4 kilometers. Airbags deployed. He is too wrapped in his grief that he doesn't notice the fires that burn in the nearby city of Minneapolis, or the traffic jams of cars trying to leave the city, the vehicles filled with half-eaten people, hordes of infected scattered amongst the outer rim of the suburbs, feeding on anything that is warm-blooded. Escape pod 7A. 1.37 kilometers. Thrusters off. Parachute released. O2 tanks jettisoned. Ventilation open. The parachute catches the wind and heaves him towards a wind turbine. Escape pod 7A. Impact in T-2. Boop. And that, my friends, is the end of our story, Homecoming. So, thanks, Olga. My Spanish is good, she said. Um, if you noticed, I did post a poll question. I posted a question for you to answer while you were reading, or while I was reading, about what your favorite zombie apocalypse is. And I put a number of universes that have the zombie things going on. So please check that out if you get a chance. Thank you very much, you guys, for joining. I did create an event for next Wednesday for the next apocalypse, Humpday, and we will be reading the prologue from the manuscript I'm working on. It's going to be a prequel to Zechariah 14:12. The name of the manuscript is Jeremiah 19:9, Patient Zero. And I will be reading. It's basically what happened to Marta Cortez as she escaped the ISS. And that will be next week at 9 o'clock, the same time. Don't forget, this Friday, it's the b.hive holiday special. And, yeah, I've got big plans for that. Actually, no, it'll probably be as disappointing as the Star Wars holiday special. Hopefully not, though. I do have quite a bit of guest list starting, so I'm really happy about that. I'm really happy with the turnout tonight. So thank you guys very much for coming out and listening and watching. I hope you all enjoy the voices I come up for some of these people. It's kind of fun. I do read these ahead of time, and I try to read through them, try to rehearse a little bit, so that I'm not sounding like a first grader trying to read War and Peace. So trying to get things to run fairly smoothly for you. So thanks for hanging out with me tonight. 45 minutes, not bad for story time. And I'm really excited for the holiday special this Friday. I read through it. Yeah, a lot of fun characters in there. And yeah, you'll get to meet the Anti-Claus. And it's not Krampus, it's the Anti-Claus. Wait till you meet him. He's a treat. And so is the Gilbertson family that gets to meet him as well. So anyhow, thank you guys for coming out. Yeah, Christmas is around the corner, but we'll talk about that on Friday when y'all make it back here for the holiday special. Thank you, Olga, for stopping in and stuff like that. There'll be more on Friday if you want to keep listening, and more on the zombie apocalypse next Hump Day. So if you didn't get a chance to watch this live, I will have it on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Bradley Bodeker. Thank you guys for liking this page and following this page. Also, thank you for heading over to YouTube and subscribing over there. My number jumped. I'm almost to 20 subscribers. So, you know what? It's better than nothing, right? So, I enjoy this time with you guys. I enjoy interacting with you. I enjoy telling stories. And, yeah, it's really fun, and it's, something to do. Keeps me out of the bar, right? All right. All right, folks. You guys have a great night. Have a great week, and we will hopefully see y'all on Friday, 9 o'clock for the holiday special. Deuces!